Our Computex 2019 coverage is made possible by Seasonic, ASRock, Western Digital and Builds.gg. Check them out in the links below. What's up guys, welcome back to another GGF video. It is Computex Day 3 and I'm Stuart from GGF. Now we are at the XPG booth and we have a heap of gear to cover. We have SSDs, we have RAM, we have heaps of RGB, we got cases, keyboards and we have a crazy orb over to my right. Let's go and check it out. Now we're going to start on the right here and work our way all the way down this long line. There's memory, there's cases, there's power supplies, there's all-in-one coolers, and we have the keyboard as well at the end. Now I just want to quickly cover on this one. This is their brand new XPG Spectrix D60G. We did use this in one of our Seasonic RGB builds. Now you might be wondering what this OC world record is. The OC world record was 5,738 MTS. You might be wondering what MTS stands for. That is mega transfers a second. So normally we're used to like megahertz, 2133, your 3200 megahertz, but the MTS is really the more accurate and what your speed is defined as. So that's why they have used MTS as the sort of world record denominator for this one. Now moving on to some of the other memory and SSDs we have here, you've probably seen these XPG Spectrix S40G. Now these ones are RGB. Now I do like how these are very low profile. They're not going to stick up and pretty much affect your video card. I don't even think these will be higher than a PCIe slot. Now these are PCI Gen 3 by 4. The raw performance of this, your read is going to be 3,500 megabytes a second and the write is 3,000 megabytes a second. Now that is pretty fast. That's probably the fastest there is out on the market, and these will sync up with most of your motherboard software that is pending, so expect that in the future. But what I do like with XPG is they do have their own software to control these, so you don't have to rely on the motherboard software to do that. And capacities are 256, 512 and all the way up to 1 terabyte. Now moving on to the Spectrix D41, a little bit older. I won't cover on this, I've used this before. I really do appreciate how ADATA has gone to the effort to diffuse all the LEDs in here. This is probably the most diffused memory I have seen around. If you just look at that, you can't see one single LED on the top there, and on the right we have the cooperation with the Tough Gaming Alliance, and then these are also have the syncing for your motherboard software, and these go up to 4133 megahertz, and they also support the Intel and AMD platforms. Moving over to the Spectrix D80, this I think was announced about a year ago. I did do a special promo video on this. I've used it in a few builds. This is the one where it's a self-contained liquid cooled memory. I'm really happy that they brought it out in a black module, so all the heat spreader is black. I did get sent the red, but it is nice they do have it in black, and that is the different type of approach to diffusing the LEDs inside. I do like how the water diffuses it in a different way than how you would normally diffuse the LEDs. And over here is the Spectrix D60G, which we just covered was the world record. This does have the new heat spreader that XPG is going for. It covers 60% of the module surface area, and as you can see from these shots, it's nearly all RGB. Now this runs up to 4133 megahertz, and it does come in sizes in the 16, 32 and 64 gig kits. And once again, this will work with say like your ASRock and so on polychrome RGB software, but ADATA does have their own software to control this. Some other interesting products we have here are new power supplies from ADATA or XPG. Now I believe this is probably their first power supplies they've introduced into the market. On the left we have 550, 650, 750, all the way to 850 watts. Now what's interesting with these do have a much smaller form factor. So instead of the traditional 160 millimeters, these are 150, so they will be much better for smaller cases. Now these are labeled the core reactor. That's the branding they've gone with, and I was speaking to the guys from ADATA. These do have a really tight fan profile, so when you're running it at nearly most of your power consumption up until load, the fan won't spin, so it'll spin towards high up into your maximum load. So these are very, very quiet units. And you might be wondering who the OEM manufacturer are. These are, they are Channelwell. So Channelwell have been making power supplies for a lot of companies for many years. Now you may have seen these other products in the background here. These are XPG's new all-in-one coolers. These are called the XPG Levante. I think I said that right, Levante. Now these use an Asetek cooler. This is running the Gen 6, so the current one on the market. Now these fans are XPG's new fans. These are also in their cases as well, which we will show you a little bit later on. And as you can see, the type of interesting fan design, how it sort of channels the air into that radiator. So this is a standard aluminium radiator for this 240 all-in-one cooler, and then it will be coming out in a 360mm size as well. Now this does have a RGB lighting. Another interesting feature on these, you can control the lighting manually, or they do have the 5-volt digital RGB header to sync up to your motherboard. And these also come with all the included brackets for your AM4, your Intel, and so on, so you can get them hooked up into all of your platforms. Moving along, you may be wondering what these are over here, and yes, these are cases from XPG. They are jumping into the chassis market. Now on the right, we have the Battlecruiser. On the left, we have the Invader. So the Battlecruiser on the right is their more sort of water cooling friendly chassis. It's more for enthusiasts. It's got some more custom work inside. Now what I do appreciate is what XPG are focusing, and it looks like they're focusing on airflow. We've got plenty of room in here, and this goes all the way through on both sides. So it looks like they're making airflow their number one priority. They're not making it a sealed hot box like a lot of cases we've seen. Now I believe the retail on this white Battlecruiser will be around $149. It does have the USB Type-C up the top, which I do appreciate. In terms of support inside, we can see a 360 at the front. Mind you, the hard drives will have to be removed, that bay, if you want to put in a thicker radiator. Up the top, it looks like there's room for a 360 as well, but I don't think you'll be able to get a radiator up there, only because the motherboard is sort of really tight up against those fans, and you do get 3 RGB fans included in this case, the same which we just saw on the all-in-one cooler. Now moving over to the Invader over here, this one is looking to retail at $79. Now this one's a little bit a little cheaper. It's not as sort of enthusiast friendly. It's more of just a basic case to get you up and going. It has the magnetic dust filter up the top, and also on the front, this whole panel is removable. And I do appreciate how this is metal. This is actually quite heavy. I did nearly drop that, but it is a nice metal cover. And as you can see, basic setup up inside, it'll really just be for sort of your all-in-one cooler setup, your air-cooled video card, and so on. And this does come with 2 black fans. Now, some other new products I do want to cover from the XPG booth is this new keyboard here. This is the Summoner. Now, I do appreciate how XPG have gone with a full aluminum gunmetal cover on the top there, and you can see it just complements this keyboard nicely. They could have gone with plastic, they could have gone with something else, but I do appreciate when brands go with especially things like aluminum, and they have gone with their logo in sort of a chrome brushed finish. Now another area on this keyboard, it does have a detachable wrist rest, and it's not any of the other ones where they got to clip in, you got to turn them upside down to pull them out. This one is just magnetized, and it just goes in there nicely. And as a material that's on this wrist rest, it's a nice squishy, it seems like a PU leather material on top. Some other areas on this keyboard is the full metal volume knob up here. Now that does scroll nicely, and it's kind of like a mouse wheel where it sort of has individual increments where it clicks. And then on the right of that, we have the caps lock, the num lock, and it looks like there is a game mode button, and that light will activate when that is on. Now in terms of the switches on this keyboard, they of course are Cherry MX. They do come in the Speed Silver, which this one is running. Then they come in the blue and the red, and blue being my personal favorite. And it looks like on the back here, there is also a USB pass-through, which is a nice touch, because as you can see when you have the mouse over here, it's just right there, and you can tuck this cable in out of the way. Now you might be wondering what this behemoth of a mouse pad is. This is the XPG Battleground XL Prime, and of course it is RGB, and we do have a control button on the top right here. I do sort of appreciate this than having software. To me, having to install software just to change your mousepad is a little bit much. I guess if you are running a full RGB ecosystem, you will want the software to sync it all up. But if you're just running a mousepad on its own, I do like the button. I can just cycle through, change the different modes, and away you go. Now, I just want to know your thoughts on the type of aesthetics on this mousepad. Do you like just a plain black mousepad? Do you like branding? Do you like logos on your mousepads? I did notice that this branding over here is slightly raised, so I guess over here it's not too bad, but having it over where your mouse is going to move, it may cause issues on different sensors. Lastly, I just want to cover at the XPG booth is this crazy headset over here. Now this is the XPG precog. Now you might be running, all right, what sets this apart to other headsets? Well, first off, this has two sort of drivers set up in this unit. So it's got a sort of highly tuned bass driver, so that's for your deep lows, and then it does have a second electrostatic driver, so that's a high precision audio driver, and that'll run up to your 50 kilohertz range. So I was testing these before on this little DAC over there, and it did sound phenomenal. Now, other features on these units are it does have an ENC setup on the microphone, so that is environmental noise cancelling. So what that is, that has two mics on the end of the microphone. So what that does, it'll work with an algorithm to cancel out noise. So things like your blue switches on your keyboard, people cheering if you're in like an esports environment, it'll cancel out that noise, which is, I think, is pretty good for a headset like this. Now, this is also high res certified, so for you audiophiles out there, that's also a good option for you. Now, before I forget, price on this headset is looking at roughly $150 US. Some other features on this headset, it does have USB Type-C on there. So for you guys running things like phones that have, I think it's Samsung phones that don't have the headphone jack, you can run that straight in. Things like Macs as well, you can throw that straight in. And then it also does have the analog 3.5mm connector. So if you guys running dedicated sound cards, things like that, you can take advantage. And then it also does do the virtual 7.1 for you guys who want to run that sort of software environment-related audio. And then the ear cups I was testing out, it seems to be not quite as strong as a memory foam. It's a little bit softer than a memory foam, and I did test these for a bit, and they are very, very comfy. Alrighty guys, that is it from the XPG booth. I just want to lastly cover this crazy orb that XPG have set up here. Now this thing is just insane. Inside we have a super ultra wide monitor. It's actually playing a game that XPG reached out to the developers, and they've actually added the cube into the game. And as you move around, you're actually in this cube, and you can actually try and get high scores and so on and beat records, which is really cool. It's getting the crowds in here. It's got a lot of people playing around, and it's just a neat little setup. But anyway, that's it from this booth. I want to thank the guys from XPG for having me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more videos.